Welcome to Innate Express Podcast. I'm Haig John, chiropractor in Melbourne, Florida. Our mission is to ground you in service and inspire you to serve at your very best. Let's get started. Some people might get upset, that I might be using this reference, but, we talk about the Jews and, leaving Egypt, the parting of the Red Sea, and, as a history lesson, that's important, but as a lesson for ourselves, they were running from persecution, from slavery, from, fear, anxiety, whatever it might be, all of the negative stuff that we run into in life, all the outside world that we don't claim as ourself, right? That's a big deal. They said, that's it, we're out of here, we're gone. And all of these armies, trying to keep them where they were at all costs. Same thing, we hang on to a lot of this garbage through our lives, and as we run from them, we seem to run into, insurmountable barriers. When we have this faith in ourselves and true courage for ourselves, there is no obstacle. Jesus said, everything I could do, you can do better. He asked the apostles to walk on water. When he walked on water, sure, you can do it. It's their lack of faith that kept them from doing it. They fell in the water. That faith in ourselves, that courage in ourselves. There have been readings of many of the people walked into the Red Sea up to their necks before the sea parted. I've heard that story multiple times, right? It's, I don't care, I have faith, whatever will be is meant to be, I am gone, and I would rather be dead than not live my true self. That is a level of courage. It's a level of faith in me, whatever it might be, I am going. We talked about the other day, I ain't going down no more, Sid Williams used to say when he was alive and his wife just passed, God bless her and him. That fear and the anxiety and all these things that we're running from, right? We can either say, okay, I'm not going to run anymore, I'm going to accept it, I'm going to allow my, whatever it might be, I'm going to just adapt to, assimilate to this group. I'm going to give up my ideals, I'm going to say, okay. And, just allow myself to be this way. Or we could stand up for ourselves and we can move forward. I just did a little seminar. I say little, it was an awesome seminar. I just did it within, in a day. It was 5 hours. I did a short one, I should say. And I compacted a 2-day seminar into 5 hours, which was intense, actually. But that was the time we had. That's the time that we all could do together. We all went to dinner afterwards, before my second meeting in the evening, and we talked about courage. And what is it about people out here in the world and making changes in their lives? Can't they see it? Isn't it obvious? To me, it's obvious because I've been working in this world for a long time. I can see under the dirt under the rug, I've been there, I know how to look for it, and it seems very obvious to me. When people first get their awareness of things, there's that fear of, is this real? Is it right? I've heard so much of the other side. Because a lot of it is taking courage away from me, that I am not able to heal myself. My body is inferior. I can't live without chemical influences in life. They're talking about adding not only fluoride to the water, but lithium to the water, okay? My father was a psychiatrist in New York City at Ward's Island. They have wards for the criminally insane there. They have the walking bridges and driving bridges can raise up so nobody can escape. I mean, it's a heavy-duty place, this place. They give those people lithium, right, to knock you out. This stuff is heavy-duty stuff, right? And they're talking about adding it to our water. So, and, that takes people to say, okay, all right, yeah, I'd rather be sedated because then I can't see the real world. Plato wrote the allegory of the cave. Have you ever heard of that? The allegory of the cave, now this might sound very strange, okay? You raise a child chained or only able to see the reflections of figures. There's a fire behind him and see the reflection of figures in front of him, and that's all the child sees as the real world. This is reality to me. That's all I can see. That's the real world for me. And I'm making the long story short, and it's not even very long actually. When that child breaks free and runs out of the cave and sees the real world, isn't necessarily easy to. They say that that person would kill themselves or not be able to handle it. And when we're talking in these ways, very often we're lowering the veil. We're showing the reality. We're giving people the real world. And there's a lot more of that going on now. Like, not saying you'd vaccinate your child, you wouldn't vaccinate your child 25 years ago would be very, very normal. In the past 25 years, there's been a lot of propaganda, which means advertising to say that's a terrible way to think. To now, the generation that has been given that propaganda would say, I wouldn't imagine not vaccinating my child. Then, now, the people that have said no, and the voices are getting stronger, so there are two sides now. People know that there is something else. So, and there's that in many other ways of, reading labels, and, the company wouldn't feed us food that wouldn't be healthy for us. They wouldn't want that for us. The FDA wouldn't let that happen. And we know now that is complete fiction. They do not care how long you live. They only care that you're addicted to their product. And corporations running, the federal government is just obvious now. Most people can see it's just, huge donations by the Merck company to open their corporate headquarters in New York right after they announced that right after having forced vaccines in New York, right? It is just absolutely obvious. If you can't see it, eventually you may. So, same thing with our health, of giving confidence. My father and I, we were in Manhattan. We were washing his. We went to the laundromat. Okay, there are no laundry. He didn't have a washer and dryer in his apartment, so we're down at the laundromat, and we're talking, and a commercial comes on for. I hate to even market drugs, but it was for Motrin, and giving it to your child to lower their fever. My father's a medical doctor trained in London. And he said, that is the most disgusting commercial I have ever heard in my life. He never watched TV. He heard that commercial. He said, I cannot believe they're putting that on the television for people to hear. That is wretched. He knows a child's fever is extremely important for their health. It is part of our innate intelligence, how it functions to heal disease or virus and bacteria in the body. Bacteria and virus do not multiply at these high temperatures. If you lower the temperature, the bacteria and virus multiply as they would normally, and the immune system actually has to work much harder, right? So the fever is a very important thing. I was like second generation after there was an AIDS research at Life University, and I saw a lot of the people that were on this program. And with full-blown AIDS, the last bit of their immune system that functioned was fever. They were all boiling hot because the rest of their immune system wasn't functioning. They weren't making T cells or antibodies. The adjustments helped them tremendously. It was actually amazing, absolutely amazing. But the fever was the important part of their health. It was the last thing that they had. So this courage or faith in the body, that's what we're missing. And that's what we have to encourage in other people. Having the courage to try something new in life, to step out of where we are, to step farther and think bigger than what we've been told we are even. So that programming over and over again, we think the I am is this limited thing. What's his name? Tony Robbins wrote a book, The Giant, I think it's The Giant Within. And I've only read the cover. My wife read the book, but I read the cover, and I get it. Because in reality, chiropractic philosophy goes through a absolute abundance philosophy. Everything Tony Robbins and all these other people have been talking about for forever B.J. Palmer was talking about decades before. We're going to read a little bit of that later. So understanding these things, the philosophy of lack is rampant, especially in the United States. Adding lithium to our water. I mean, don't we have faith in our population that they are powerful enough to make decisions, or do we want to suppress them so much that they don't see the real world? That's really what it is. So this morning, we're going to go into reading a green book in just a moment, but that was exactly what what I've been thinking of lately. Of the parting of the Red Sea is a, what do you call that? Like a synonym or an analogy, really, of our faith in ourselves, how powerful it is. I've related that in other ways in chiropractic, in the two hemispheres of the brain, the Red Sea, the centers being the corpus callosum, that's the center of the brain that connects the two halves. As we pass through there to the promised land, right? What is that? Is really the desert. What is the desert? Really is there's less stimulation, there's less of the outside world. We have to have much more faith in ourselves to live in a desert. Imagine what that takes, the confidence in knowing what I'm doing to live on a glacier and eat seals, right? That's a desert. To live in the sand in the desert, but also in ourselves. Sometimes when we're making decisions, we're all alone in that. It might even be in, within a family or within a group of friends that we might be the one outsider making a different decision than the others. And being a chiropractor, making decisions on my family's health, that's very often the way. We have families now that decided not to vaccinate their children anymore, which is absolutely amazing to me. And not necessarily judging us. Some of them give us a few weird looks like, that's a little strange, you're not vaccinating your child. It's like, you can't have a genetic epidemic, and they're calling these things epidemics now. And, a genetic epidemic doesn't make sense in any way. Autism having an epidemic this way, there is a problem. The grand experiment is a failure. They've said children are going to live a shorter lifespan than their parents. And that's the first time ever in human history that's going to happen. There has been no revolt over that. So just giving a little bit of light to people and saying, look at the experiment that has gone on out there. It hasn't worked. By adding more chemistry in bodies, people are going to live shorter and sicker in their lives. The television shows and movies out there are about sickness and disease and accepting it, right? Your parent's going to pass away from this disease, or your children are going to end up sick. You might as well start desensitizing people about that. And that's actually happening now. So as we start transitioning now from, there's two schools of thought of having confidence in this life, in this body, and not. So we have to stand strong in our ideals. We have armies chasing us. We have, roads that don't seem passable, that we have to have a leap of faith to go through. We come to a desert and we might be alone, or a few people with us that have the same beliefs, to get to where? The promised land. And that is one place. The kingdom of heaven is within. Looking within ourselves and having that power within ourselves at every moment. This past week has been, kids going back to school, all kinds of this craziness. This week, I know I am more grounded. So if I am more grounded, the people around us are more grounded. I am grounded today. How does that feel for everyone?
Feels
Good?
great.
Good.